Okay folks, we're moving to question 3 of the grade 11 2018 final examination. That question is still dealing with solving for x, in other words solving equations, but this time around we're working with exponential equations. So we've got to look carefully at the object that we're working with, okay? You have to understand what this object represents and how you deal with it. Now let's analyze. If I look at the first one, it's for 6 marks. 5 to the x minus 5 to the 2 minus x. Remember, what did you learn? If there's an exponent that is negative, there's a fraction in the question. Now it's even worse. If that was just a number, it's fine. Then it would have been 1 over maybe 5 or something. But this is 1 over 5 to the power of x, which means that there's a fraction with an x in the power. Be careful. Here we can see that none of the sorts. All the x's are positive, but here we have a 3 base 3 to the x and a base 2 to the x. So we have to think carefully how we solve these. Okay, so you can, if you want to use a substitution to do this with. So I'm going to say let k equal 5 to the x. Okay, so what happens now? We know that now k has to be strictly positive, cannot be naught. So any answer that we are going to get for k here, we will have to discard the negatives. Why? Folks, because 5 is a positive base. No matter what you do to the power of x, that 5 to the x will never be negative. It might become a fraction if x is negative, but there's no value for x. That number 1 will make 5 to the x naught, and number 2 will make it negative, so it's entirely positive. Okay, so what do I have? I have k minus 5 to the power 2 multiplied by 5 to the power x, which is, in our case, it's 5 to the minus x, so this is k to the minus 1, minus 24, which is naught. Remember, we're substituting 5 to the x. So if I now want to get rid of this k that has a negative power, all I need to do is to each side of this equation, I'm going to multiply k to the power of 1, because that takes care of the fraction k. Look at it. If I multiply like bases, I add my powers. 1 minus 1 is naught, and then k to the naught will be 1. So what do I end up with? I end up with k squared minus 25 minus 24k is naught. Sorry, that second green bracket should actually include the 24. It's the whole side, and 24 is part of this side. Okay, let's just write it in standard form. K squared minus 24k minus 25 is naught, and I can start factoring. The factors that I'm looking for is for 25, and the factors must differ so that the result is 24. Now I'm sure you all saw that it has to be 25 times 1. The signs are different. The bigger one is negative, so negative positive is naught. That would mean that k is minus 1, which per restriction is not applicable, because 5 to the x will never be negative. So what do I have? I have k, which is 25. What was k? K was 5 to the x. So therefore 5 to the x is 25, which I'm going to write as 5 to the power of 2, and then finally x is a value of 2. Now that's important that you remember. If you substitute, state your restrictions. Always, 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 folks, state that restriction. Okay, we go back and we discard the negative and we solve. The one on this side is a little bit more interesting. I have to solve for x. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to take the 3 to the x and divide it by 2 to the x in an effort to bring the x's to the one side. That is going to be equal to 27 divided by 8. Now you can see here, your exponential law says a to the m over b to the m is the same as a over b all to the m. Okay, so I'm going to write the left hand side as 3 over 2 all to the power of x. Then this is 3 to the power 3 over 2 to the power 3, which by the same exponential law you can write as 3 over 2 to the power of 3. Now you can see, if you compare those two, the bases are the same. Okay, so we ignore the bases. Remember, we're not cancelling them. You can't. You ignore them and you continue with the powers. So that would tell us that x has to equal 3. Okay, so that was an exponential question, question 3 on the paper, and it was all for 10 marks. Okay, folks, I hope that made sense. Please remember to like the video and feel free to leave comments as well on the video for me. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one and you learned from it.